Some days later, she would ask why I opposed the guy staying with us so much. To this, I responded that he looked too relaxed for someone stranded. "By the way, he's Jack," she said, telling me the guy's name. For some reason I couldn't explain, I instantly hated Jack. Even his name was a piss off. With Jack around, Rochelle didn't have my time. She was too busy helping him out with all his stuff for that. He had backlogs, and she was helping him with that. I watched them both as they worked sometimes while I pretended to be busy on the laptop. My girlfriend didn't even notice how bored I had become, but I knew he would leave soon, so I endured the torture of watching them together. I also noticed that Rochelle seemed to laugh more at his jokes and got carried away when with him. Even when with me, she sometimes mentioned his name unintentionally. One afternoon, I came home earlier. It wasn't so early though. Rochelle didn't remember my schedule anymore. I came home to people running around. Scared, I rushed into the room. "What's going on in here?" I asked as I saw both of them rolling off the bed onto the floor. He was tickling my girlfriend, and she was running around, trying to stop him. The two looked at me guiltily and stopped. Jack excused himself, and I turned to my girlfriend. "What the heck?" I asked. I wanted to know the stupid game they were playing that got them into the bedroom. She didn't see it as a big deal. She merely shrugged, explained that they were doing their assignment, and got carried away. I shut my mind so I wouldn't overthink it and get carried away. But then I wondered how carried away they would have been if I had not come in that early. I must say it was a disturbing thought. It didn't end there. Sometimes I would come home and meet them playing peekaboo with my girlfriend giggling excitedly. The first time I met them on that, the initial shock was patted down when she pulled me to join in the game. Rochelle was happy like some school kid. I'm not sure I had seen her that happy before. Well, the second time they played this silly game, I was so tired I went into the bedroom. My girlfriend didn't even notice this. She went on with her game. Then and there, I knew Jack had to go. I instantly called in favors and had his accommodation issue sorted out. That ended the relationship, I hoped. But they were taking the same classes, so I knew they would meet in school. The thought pushed me away from Rochelle for some time. Somehow she must have also realized that I played a role in his moving out of the house. She sulked for days because she was bored. I didn't bother trying to cheer her up. I was equally pissed too. Once I went to her department. I had finished class early, and I decided to check up on her. This wasn't the first time. I called her phone, but she wasn't picking up. So I just went to her department. I didn't find her immediately. When I did, guess who she was with? Jack, yes. I was furious. Holding her hand, I pulled her away and drove us home. We had a nasty argument that day. I asked her square and fair if she liked Jack more and wanted to be with him. She stared at me in shock. "How could you even say that?" she yelled and burst into tears. I somehow felt guilty, thinking I had it all wrong, but they were too close for comfort, even if she wasn't seeing the guy. We argued back and forth until I knew she got the picture that she was becoming too close to this guy, and I was not too fond of it. We didn't speak to each other for days. I wasn't sure if she would yield or I would, and I didn't even know if we could find common ground here. Finally, though, we moved past it. She apologized for making me feel like I had to compete with another man for her attention. I also apologized for making out what was a friendship into something more. And yes, we got past that episode. Oh dear. Seeing as you said that you had a history with cheating and you saw what it did to couples and families, OP, I'm shocked that you were willing to work it out and move past it. All signs point to the fact that she wasn't just close with him, she was indeed cheating on you and seeing him, and whatever else, on your own bed. You had a long history with her, and it's hard to imagine that the people we love are capable of doing something like infidelity. But, believe it or not, they are capable of it. And you saw what you saw. She knew exactly what she was doing. You just don't let your male friends hold your hands and tickle you. That's going way too far, and it's far too intimate for a male friend to do. What do you think? What's crossing the line? Part B. After school, we went back home. I had a CEO seat already waiting for me, although for some time I would be undergoing training from my sister. She had been managing the family business while I was in school. I was to come in as the business lawyer and CEO while she handled the other businesses. I didn't like the arrangement, but I had no choice. I was also starting my private law firm, and I needed all the help I could get. I wanted Rochelle to work with me, or for me, as she said. She turned me down, claiming she needed some air. I knew what she meant. We had lived together for more than 4 years. She would want some air truly. But what she wanted was far deeper and I didn't get it in time. I guess that was when I should have been paying attention. She had categorically said she needed some space away from me. I became so comfortable in my relationship with Rochelle that I lost track of time. Today makes it 9 years that we have been together. Yet, she says she's not ready to get married to me. Back in school, I had once asked her to marry me. "Sure," she replied with little or no excitement. So I asked what was going on in her thick head. She then said we were too young to be bonded for life. "Think of all the beautiful people we haven't met yet. People we'd want to have something deep with." I shook my head at the thought. I had a perfect girlfriend whom I loved so much. Why do I need any more beautiful people? I told her this quite frankly, and she laughed. Since she turned down the offer to work for me, which, quite frankly, I understand, I tried to get a good job with some well-to-do company with whom I had a close relationship. When I discussed it with her, she turned that down too. Then she went on to explain that she had lived off of me in college and wanted to do things independently. She was also trying to get some money and pay me back. For someone whom I had dated for years, I was surprised she thought I took her for charity. Though I insisted she doesn't repay, I knew she was adamantly chasing that, and I was preparing for the day she would come with such despicable money. Since our arrival from Stanford, it seems something has changed in our relationship. I had proposed around the time we were leaving school, and the casual way she dismissed me hurt. I mean, who dates someone for that long and insists she isn't ready to get married? I'm always grateful, though, that the proposal had been a private one. It was deliberately planned, and I had intentionally left out friends. The plan was to announce our engagement after the proposal. Who knew there would be no announcement coming soon? I was hurt that she turned me down, really. But it wasn't like I couldn't let it slide. She had, after all, not rejected me. She only said we both needed some real-life lessons and to have a clear-cut path before settling down. She even took the ring from me as a sign that she loved me, only she doesn't wear it. When we moved back to LA, I assumed the distance had something to do with the proposal that had gone awry. But it was more. First, there was the proposal. Then she mentioned repaying me for living with me at Stanford. And she had said we had to have a clear path. And there was the job offer denied too. Yes, it was true. We were pulling apart. I didn't notice this. When I got home, I had a CEO position to fill and was always so busy. Since we no longer lived together, seeing my girl was a hassle. She was always busy too, searching for a job and doing one thing or the other. Personally, I wanted Rochelle to live with me. As a CEO now, I have my quarters. I didn't see the need to live with my parents. They were good now. My sister lives there, although she has her apartment too. She goes back and forth, which is what I intended to do too. The apartment is huge, yet I lived alone with the bits of help, just 3 of them. I explained to Rochelle that she could move in, but she blatantly refused. So I let her be. The first shock came when she announced that she had finally gotten a job. That was 6 months ago. I was genuinely happy for her and wanted to come see her at her workplace. At first, she didn't want me to leave my hot CEO seat, as she said, just to see her. Then, she mentioned that the place wasn't as nice as my well-furnished and polished company. But hey, who cares? I insisted I was going to visit, and I was there. She was one of the 3 staff of the company. I had to swallow my argument since she didn't want to work with me. Plus, her enthusiasm about the job was disturbing. I greeted the other staff casually and was on my way out when the boss came. And guess who my girlfriend now works for? It was Jack. Same old Jack. I went back to my workplace furiously. The fact that she had said nothing about this made me angry. What was she thinking? That I wouldn't see the boss when I came? It made me wonder how long she would have said nothing to me had I not found things out myself. Knowing I was angry, Rochelle came to my place that evening. It was one of our serious fights. I could never forget how angry I was with her. On her path, she tried to make her statement. Her excuse was that she knew I would flip if I knew who the boss was. Of course I would. This was a guy who almost took my girl away from me. What was she thinking? You could not work for him, I insisted. This cannot work for me. Rochelle equally put her foot down and insisted she wasn't quitting. I don't understand how she wanted to work for her colleague back in school, but not me. We fought, and it was a nasty fight. I wanted her to leave the workplace that didn't even look great. She, on the other hand, said I was becoming too controlling. It wasn't good. We didn't talk for a long time, but I finally yielded this time. I told myself I didn't need to be so insecure about our friendship that may or may not result in what I thought it was. Not that she was going to quit her job anyway. Then I asked around too. I could have run down that business. It was only a matter of placing a call, but I chose to respect her and what we shared. If she said nothing was going on, then it is my responsibility to trust her and hope that she will make sure nothing goes wrong. I guess I was wrong. I could only trust myself and what I'd do. I shouldn't place my trust in someone else. We are different and we change, and so does feelings. I could trust my feelings. Can I trust hers? Rochelle started working and she was enjoying it. While I was honestly so busy, I checked on her. We chatted back and forth online, and we met for some good dinner and some sightseeing. For some time, all was perfect until she became too engrossed with work. At some point, I became unimportant to her. She rescheduled our meetings without thinking of the planning I put in. She stopped seeing me for the man who was in love with her. I became the one whose meeting could be rescheduled. Whenever we picked a date, I had to check in with her constantly to be sure she didn't forget or had canceled for some other plans. I didn't want to complain. Well, maybe at first I didn't, but when it was becoming too much, I started to drop subtle hints, hoping she would read in between the lines. Nothing changed. Things rather became bad. We were both in the same city, but I hardly saw my girlfriend. The excuse was always that she had so much work to do and that she was very tired. If I wanted to visit, she would not be home, or if she were, she would be too tired to entertain any visitors. That she made me into a visitor never ceases to amaze me. We say occasionally. It went from thrice weekly to twice in 2 weeks, and then it became once a month. What was worse was her complacency. It bothered me that she didn't see this as a big deal, and when I went to check on her at work and saw that she was indeed stressed, I felt I needed to do something to save her from herself. One evening, I decided to propose again, get married, and have her move with me. I thought that would at least make her mine, and I could stop her from working. Or we could work up some better arrangement. I put everything into this date. I even started sending subtle hints so she could be prepared. Like I did for prom, I sent her a sequined dress. I love how she dazzles in those. Rochelle called to say she loved the dress and was looking forward to dinner with me. If she recalled this happened at prom too, she said nothing about it. The only thing she did was she took a picture of herself wearing the dress and sent it to me. The image stayed in my memory. Somewhere in my mind, I felt she could have just come to my apartment to dress up for me, but I had to stay satisfied with the picture she sent. I made sure my PA canceled all my appointments for that day. I also called my girlfriend to be sure she had me in her plans still. She laughed at me for being so nervous and said she would be there. So, I got 2 of my friends, and we went to the venue to see what the decorator had done. I arranged to meet at the Barty Lounge, which had just opened in LA. Only the powerful and affluent in the state could get such a place at such a short notice. In fact, my girlfriend was impressed when I told her that's where we would be dining. I loved what the decorator had done with the place. Since I told him I would propose, I paid for every extra topping that could make the day memorable. The spot we were using was beautifully decorated, and I loved it immediately. I was sure she would love it too. Flowers were used to forming a love shape around the love seats and the red carpet. Everything was so perfect. Something made me snap at the beautiful arrangement. I was going to send it to my girl later. We went over to look over the menu. A special chef would be handling our meal. It was a 2-course since we would be dining in the evening. The chef brought out a sample of what we could have. With my friends, we deliberated on the appropriate meal. This was a woman's field, and the chef, thankfully, is a woman. She helped us decide on the best course. After I asked the chef how the ring should be served, I planned on having the ring out while we were dining. The chef and my friends suggested dessert would be the perfect time for that. We rehearsed that part, and then my friends and I went home to change. I wanted one of them around to capture the moment. They had already gotten a hidden spot across from us. Everything was set. So I got home, ran my bath, and sat in to enjoy the event about unfolding in my mind. As my mind drifted through the process we had seen at the lounge, I remembered the picture and sent it to my girl with the caption, "Cannot wait to have you here." Dropping my phone on the stool away from the tub, I dived into the water. I got a message immediately from Michelle, I suppose, but I was already in the water, so I didn't check it. After the message tone, there was another, and then another. Assuming she was thrilled, I smiled and continued bathing. Then my phone started to ring. I ignored it. Perhaps it wasn't Rochelle. It could be work calls. I seethed as I noted to talk to my PA. I had informed her already to clear my schedule. The ringing persisted, but I didn't pick up until I was done. When I got out, I checked my phone, and it was Rochelle. As I suspected, she dropped a message saying the image was beautiful, but there was another with a sad emoji. I didn't understand what was saddening about the image. I immediately clicked on the message. Before I could read, she called again. "Hey babe," I said, picking up the call happily. "I'm sure..." I stopped talking when I heard the panic in her voice. "What's wrong?" I asked, and I listened as she filled my ears with the BS excuses. I flared up, ended the call, and called my friends. "It's canceled," I screamed into the phone. "No proposal is happening." I hung up the call and called the lounge to cancel too. I was so mad. Grabbing my keys, I drove to her house to know why she blew me off again. Rochelle was home, and so was another person. The car parked outside was an indication she had a visitor. Too angry, I barged into her apartment. There she was, with her boss. They were bent over something on the table. "Is this what you called off our date for?" I asked furiously. Both of them jumped back in shock. "So, you would rather spend time with this man here than drag yourself to me?" I yelled. "It's work, baby," she pleaded. "You realize this same work has been taking first place lately?" I asked, eyeing Jack angrily. I should have known he had a hand in this. Did he suggest she cancel our date? What were they doing when I came in? Most importantly, why would Rochelle feel whatever work they were working on was more important than I am? Sometime in the middle of the heated argument, Jack left. I sat on the couch in utter frustration. My friends kept calling me, and I picked up and yelled that the proposal was off. "What?" Rochelle exclaimed. Angrily, I got up. "Yes, I was going to propose," I blurted out, "and now I have to cancel everything." That said, I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't see my girlfriend for a good 3 days. I wasn't worried about her anyway. I resumed work the next day, knowing that was what could keep me sane. The difficult part was explaining what had happened to my friends. She chose work, I kept saying, but couldn't dive into the details. I wasn't emotionally ready to tell that story just yet. Plus, I didn't know where my relationship stood at that point. They let me be for the moment, but I knew I would eventually have to face them and say something. It was inevitable. On the third evening, that was last week, I drove home to meet Rochelle at my apartment. She was waiting for me at the entrance even though she had her key. Wordlessly, I opened the door and walked in. She walked in after me. Ignoring her, I went to the bar and poured myself a drink. "Are you going to keep ignoring me?" she asked. I said nothing, but sat on the couch and nodded that she sat too. We both just sat, saying nothing but sipping our drinks. "I'm sorry," Rochelle said. "I know that somehow this is my fault." "Oh, not somehow, Rochelle," I replied calmly despite my raging anger. "You did this." We didn't speak to each other again for a while. Then she asked me if I was indeed going to propose. I smirked as I reached for the ring. Yes, it's been in my pocket since yesterday when the chef had sent it over. I threw the shiny diamond at her. She gasped when she saw it. I was more into gold than diamond. Left to me, I would have picked a golden ring, but my girlfriend has a thing for diamonds, so I picked a diamond ring. I smiled as she turned the ring around. She slipped it on her finger and lifted it admiringly. My anger dissipated as I saw the genuine excitement in her eyes. Leaving my seat, I went to her. She dropped the hand when I walked over to her, but I lifted the hand and kissed it. I was going to be on bended knee to ask that she marry me. It didn't matter anymore that another proposal had been ruined. She was here with me right now. Who cares about decorations and glamour? We were the most important part of the relationship. As I got off the couch to kneel, her words stopped me. "I want us to try an open relationship." I stopped to look at her. Was this some joke? Did she mean that? "Look at us," she said, explaining the trash she had just mentioned. "We started dating right from high school. We were young and stupid, and we haven't dated anyone since then." "Your point?" I asked, still shocked Rochelle was saying this. "I think we shouldn't just get married until we are both certain we want to spend the rest of our lives with each other." I kept staring at her, too shocked to respond. "I mean, we should date other people, try out things we've never done, and see where that goes." She went about how we couldn't be certain we loved each other when we barely gave anyone a chance. I was hurt and shocked and betrayed all at once. I don't know what she was saying, but I know not even my strong love for her would make me do this. When she was done spewing her nonsense, she got up and left. I said nothing to her about it. As a matter of fact, I stopped speaking to her. This was not the sweet Rochelle I knew. This was someone else speaking. I became angry and frustrated. I lost concentration even at work. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized something else was going on. It took some time, but I got a hold of myself, and I called in my private investigator. Getting a private investigator involved. I showed him Rochelle's picture and told him to follow up on everything she did. There was no way she wanted an open relationship. Something was up. Instinctively, I gave the PI Jack's picture too. My girl had started to change drastically when she started working with him. Maybe, just maybe, he had a hand in this. I told myself she couldn't have been having an affair with her boss. Or could she? After some days, my private investigator came back with some interesting pictures. I had been right. Something was up. It turns out my girlfriend of 9 years was having an affair with her boss. And to cover up her shameful act, she wanted an open relationship. I knew I should have crushed his company when I had the chance. I was a bit too late now if I wanted to. I could still end the man anyways, but the affair had already happened. Confronting Rochelle. I didn't think I needed to see Rochelle after what I discovered. We weren't talking anyway, and that seemed to do her more good than I thought. The picture the PI sent me some days later showed she was enjoying her time now with her boss. While stuck on figuring things out, she was already humping her boss and dangling the open relationship rope in front of me. I didn't bother calling her. I just drove to her place. She opened the door and let me in. When she greeted me happily, I waved her aside and told her to spare me the shenanigans. "When did it start?" I asked her with a look that told her I wasn't having any lies. "It started back in school," she began, then lurched into a whole story of how she had been attracted to Jack. She explained how she fought her growing attraction for Jack because she loved me. "I still love you," she said while I looked at her with disdain. I could tolerate anything, and I mean anything, but not cheating. No, I could never tolerate that. She swears nothing happened while in school other than a few kisses. "And that is nothing?" I barked. That I missed that made me angrier. I started pacing the room. She said nothing while I went back and forth. Her face was a mirror of my pain. She cried as she tried to calm me down. She wouldn't come near me. That was good. Finally, I stopped pacing and sat down far away from her. Then I let her continue her story. "Go on," I said. She then explained how they met again online and how she got the job. It was when she started working with him that the affair started. Unable to resist, I asked why she insisted on working for him when she knew she was attracted to him. Her excuse was as disgusting as the act itself. She claimed she wanted to know where the attraction would lead her. Well, now she knows where it led her with me. "Let me get this straight," I paused, shaking my head. "After sleeping with him, he tried to cover it up with an open relationship?" She said nothing but looked downcast. "It was a facade. I wasn't falling for that look ever again. We are done," I told her frankly. "Continue your relationship with him, okay? I don't ever want to see you." I can never stand a cheat. Memories of the days my parents were torn apart flashed through my mind. I don't want to relive that. I cannot do this. There's no way I'm taking her back. She has since been sending people to me and asking that I forgive her. But heck no, that's not happening. The fact that she cheated and tried to cover it up by asking for an open relationship speaks volumes. She would be married. She would do more despicable things. I know it sucks that we've been together that long, yet this is how it ends for us. I am hurt and angry at the moment. The sight of her makes me puke. Will time ever heal this? I don't think so. OP, I'm sorry to say, but after the first time you brought up marriage and she wasn't so thrilled about it, I feel like that was your first red flag. I think the red flag was actually hitting you square in the face and you managed to ignore it somehow. She clearly wasn't ready, wasn't interested in marrying you, and didn't want to commit to just one person. Those are all fine, but she should have expressed what she was feeling in the time. Why did you continue to ask even though she turned you down? Did you think things had changed? You two weren't on the same page for quite some time. I don't know if that's because you chose to ignore the red flags and refuse to take no for an answer. I'm not sure it's all her fault at this point. You may have some responsibility to take here as well. And yes, time will heal this. Just make sure you're open and honest about what you expect out of a relationship and the end goal, aka marriage, to whoever you date in the future, OP. What are your thoughts? Was OP blind as a bat? Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. If you want to listen to more stories from me, check out our lounge where I feature a larger variety of non-cheating related stories. Until next time.